What's going on YouTube? Thanks for tuning into the channel. It's your boy Devin Coates. Another edition, 48 Days with the 48 Laws, day 29. So, brief preface, I know I'm a little bit behind. I have made a commitment to myself. Christmas weekend, I am going to have this whole book complete, whole series complete. I'm going to have to stack some videos in between, obviously, to catch up. I think I'm 3 days behind after this video will be put up. But I'm going to make sure I get everything done. Everything is up. And once that's done, I'm going to make a move to my Canon G7X Mark II pretty much for all my videos. So just making a transition, but let me just get started with everything. So Law 29, plan all the way to the end. Judgment, the ending is everything. Plan all the way to it. Taking into account all the possible consequences, obstacles, and twists of fortune that might reverse your hard work and give the glory to others. By planning to the end, you will not be overwhelmed by circumstances, and you will know when to stop. Gently guide fortune and help determine the future by thinking far ahead. So he gives a couple stories, and in the Keys to Power, obviously, there's a few good stories. The first one is about conquering colonialism from Spain coming over to South America and things like that. And I mean, the stories are kind of long and drawn out, but long story short, that first story was about Balboa. He was a colonialist, I guess, and basically he was searching for gold. He made many attempts, had a bunch of soldiers die in the attempt to find El Dorado, which I'm pretty sure doesn't really exist. It was like a misunderstanding. But then basically they're trying to find Peru, and they're trying to find the Inca people because Incas had a lot of riches at that time. And he plans to do that, but he goes into these situations where his name and reputation gets called into question by Spain. So he sends them preliminary riches. He made it to Peru, but so many people died he couldn't do anything, so he had to go all the way back to the colony they started. And he sends some gold as basically goodwill, pardon me, king, here's some gold. So the king, who was the guy that was originally sent out to imprison Balboa, finds out that he was pardoned and agrees to his plan to go and bring ship material to basically build a fort all the way in Peru once they cross wherever they had to cross, which was treacherous. It was 90-mile trip on foot, carrying a bunch of shit and a bunch of people dying. So when they got there, basically the same thing happened again. Too many people died. All their equipment was run to shit, and everybody was too weak to do anything. He had to go back and regroup again. And the second time he regroups, basically another person comes, and actually it was somebody that was on his first trek, and they basically run trumped up charges on him and have him beheaded, and then they just run their own campaign. They actually ended up being the ones that conquered Peru and got all the glory. And the whole idea of that story was that, he didn't plan it all the way to the end. He was just making all these actions, doing stuff, and he kept getting himself in trouble. He was getting in trouble with people in Spain, and he was telling people everything he was doing. And this kind of goes back to law number 3, to conceal your intentions. He didn't really conceal his intentions. He put it all out to the blue, and then all the vultures came to kind of feast on the carcass that he had already discovered. So he didn't plan all the way to the end, and it was very evident. And actually, the brief preface in the beginning of the story of where it kind of picks up, he had already wasted a bunch of money of somebody else's trying to find this gold and had to hide. And that's how he got away from his creditors, through that way. So he didn't plan all the way at the end in that one either. So he just really wasn't good at planning. He didn't have a really effective plan. It was just let's just do it. And I'm just going to do it, and it's just going to work. And that was his whole mindset, and that's what he did, and that was his result. The next story was Otto von Bismarck, and he was he wasn't the king of Prussia, but he was I guess the head of the parliament or something like that. And basically Germany and the whole Confederation was in a very turmoil state, and Austria was kind of the head of the German alliance. So you have to imagine that all those little Germany was broken up into little kind of city states, and Prussia was one of them, and Austria was the strongest. And Bismarck had an idea of uniting Germany and for Prussia to be the king, like the leader. Nobody else really knew of his plan, but what he did was he started war with Austria, and he invoked the help of some other city states. He fights Austria. He can keep winning. He actually could have marched and done more, but he signs a treaty with them to get peace. He starts a war with France. He scares him, and he gets to it, and he invokes the help of other city states in Germany when he fights France, and basically starting these wars with all these different people. And he's gaining support from the city-state of Germany because they were all weakened by Austria. Austria wanted to stay as the power, so they wanted to keep the rest of Germany weak so they could be the dominant power. So he's gaining all this help and this support from the city-states within Germany because, they're kind of the low men on the totem pole, and now he's kind of rising their stock, and the rest of Europe is getting really nervous. And it's in the 1800s, so there's a lot of colonialism going on at this point, and everybody in Europe is kind of worried, and they're kind of getting their defenses like all ready for like Bismarck. So you don't know what this guy's going to do, and generally in these cases, as with Alexander the Great or World War II with Hitler or fucking Balboa in the last story I just told, a lot of times the Athens in the 400 BCs, a lot of times when these generals or these countries get that taste of blood, they can't let it go, and they just want to keep going for the riches, and then that's usually led to their demise over expansion. So all these other people are doing colonialism, but Bismarck's real plan was to unite Germany and to become the head. So what he did was he did all these wars, he signs these treaties with everybody. So once he kind of gets the loop around Germany, gets all that love and support, he basically puts the King of Prussia as the King of Prussia, himself as the prince, not of Prussia, of Germany. So as the King of Prussia became the King of Germany, he became the Prince of Germany. So Prussia is basically running Germany, he unites Germany, and from then on, he really limits the amount of colonialism that's going on, and from Germany's point of view, or for Germany, that Germany's doing, unlike the other colonial European powers. And the rest of his career, he just tries to secure peace and stabilize Germany as the power. So he knew his mark, and that was an observance of the law. The first one, Balboa, was a transgression. He planned all the way to the end, and he didn't go for more. He wanted to unite Germany. He wanted Prussia to be the lead power, and he accomplished those, and he stopped at that and didn't get caught up in all the other things that were fighting for his attention, and all the other trappings and sirens that are calling for the riches. So he kind of stopped at that, and it was successful, and the goal that he set out to achieve, he achieved, and he maintained it. And the real idea is that that's a key maintenance of power, is to know when to stop, because when you don't plan all the way to the end, you get yourself caught up in battles that you didn't think. It's like when you don't know what you don't know, like you get into something and you think you know what you're doing, and then you realize all these other things happen. And I mentioned Athens, and this is a good story to kind of elaborate it. In 425 BC, they attack Sicily, and the idea of gold and riches and getting power, and I think it was the Peloponnesian 16-year war that they do this, and this is mentioned in the Keys to Power. And basically they attack Sicily thinking it's going to be a quick battle, easy battle, end the war, and they're gonna basically get all this money for it. But the thing they didn't realize was, to start a battle so far from home, one, you're putting people on death ground. That's something that Sun Tzu talks about, that when you don't have a way out. So if you're fighting people on home ground, and if you're in America, you can think about our war that we are constantly fighting in, like Iraq and Afghanistan. It's like these people live there. So for them, it's like win or die. You know what I mean? Like even if you don't agree with their side and the Taliban, everything that's going on, I don't really know. And I think a lot of people don't know what the fuck is going on, because I don't think our media does a good job of educating us, just being honest. But basically, like, when they're fighting there, or the Vietnam War one, we probably have a little bit more distance on, emotionally. That was a huge failure in America, because these people, like, it was win and drive them out, or go or die. Like, it's not like you can go home and retreat. You know what I mean? Like, there's no middle ground. And when you put people on that, in that type of situation, like, they're gonna fight with vigor that, of I think in the Art of War, it's like they're gonna fight with the vigor of 10 times 10 men in one man. So you're gonna have 10 times the army just from the position they're put in. And it was the same thing in D-Day in World War II, when America landed on Normandy. Your back is to an ocean. It's like you're not gonna swim across the fucking Atlantic. So it's like, either we're gonna make it to a point where we can get a stronghold, or we die. And Athens didn't take that into account. They also didn't take into account all the enemies they built up, and how they're going to run to Sicily's defense, and seeing an opportunity to end Athens. And basically, they ruined one of the greatest empires of the ancient times was kind of destroyed, just off of the idea of greed and acting out of direction of the heart instead of direction of the mind in terms of strategy. So really, this is, and I don't want to get too long. This is one of my longer videos as of recent. So I don't want to get too far into it, but basically, you got to plan all the way to the end. It's a key to power. And when you get all the way to the end, I mean, there's another chapter that's going to come up late, but this kind of touched on it, so I'll touch on it. You have to know when to stop. You can't just think that you can keep going forever. Make your plan, execute your plan, then make a new plan. Don't just keep going without an idea just because you see a shiny thing in the fucking ocean that, like, attracts you to move. Because then you might move off your plan and get caught up in some shit where you didn't plan on the unknown, like the unknown unknowns. Like, this is where I leave it off. There's things and that would be kind of where your plan starts. There's things that you don't know, but that you don't know. And those are things that you probably put a few alternatives and plan Bs, and kind of plan for, well, if this happens, or if that thing. But then the one you always got to worry about is the third one. And that's, there's things you don't know that you don't know. And those are the things that are going to get you, especially if you don't plan to the end and have an effective plan, because you're going to run it. There's going to inevitably be things that you don't know from dipping your feet into it. Anybody who's tried anything and mastered anything. I know in wrestling to me, from when I started, when I was around 9, to where I kind of ended my career at 18, the whole two different sports. Like, from the way I viewed it, as even at 12 to 18, it's like, it's not even night and day. It's like two different universes. Like, the amount of nuances, cutting weight, hand fighting, footwork, mat presence, just everything. So you got to think about that, and that's really where it is. When I ended on that, there was no real reversal. The reversal was basically that, what plans you need: plan Bs, plan As, and plan C's. Yeah, that makes sense. It's not even a reversal, and at the end, there's no real reversal to it. You need to make a plan. You can't just be doing shit on a whim, or you're gonna get caught up. So that is it for this one. 48 Days with 48 Laws. Link in the description where you can pick up your motherfucking copy. That's how you're gonna get the best value out of this. It's your boy. Till next time, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.